Today on Natural Bushcraft, we're going to take a look at the type of kit that I would pack into my rucksack if I were going camping for say 2 or 3 days. So let's take a look at that kit now. Okay, now I've unpacked all of the kit from my bag. We can take a look at the rucksack itself. The rucksack is a Proforce 45 litre rucksack. It's not a particularly high-end rucksack at all. It's fairly cheap, but does exactly what I need it to. I've got enough carrying capacity in there. Attached to the bag, we've got a good length of paracord. I always leave clipped on, just spare, just in case I need it. And I also have my tankard for drinking and my foxtail just for a bit of decoration there. So when I am packing my rucksack at home, I've typically got a list. I have a kit list because I use you know, a lot of the same items, and I just want to check that I'm not forgetting any. So I break those down into different areas on that list, and I'll start with what I call sharps and fire, which is basically knives, saws, axes, and then what I use to light my fire. So typically on knife wise, I will have my sword peasant knife, which we've covered in a different video. That is a folding blade that I've just lightly modified myself, no real big modifications, but a good sharpen and a sand and an oil. And like I say, that's covered in a different video where we did a review on that. That I typically carry around my neck on an adjustable lanyard there, so that's always sort of on my person, readily available. I also quite often carry my full Niven F1 if I'm going out for a few days in the woods, which I again have in my pocket but clipped onto my belt there as well. So that's the full Niven F1. We've also featured that in a different video and have put that through its paces. So if I was going out for a few days, I would have those two blades on me. More often than not, I carry a folding saw. That's the Laplander there, a brilliant little saw which you can get replacement blades for if you need them, and a very small size to pack down in your rucksack. So you can see I'm missing an axe here. I don't have an axe today. A lot of the time I don't carry an axe, I just have a knife and a folding saw. Occasionally I will choose to carry an axe. I'll choose the Gransford Bruks wildlife hatchet is my preferred size, just a relatively small size axe. Also included in my sharps is my carving kit, so I just keep that in a tool roll. This changes over time, just depending on what I'm whittling at the time. So in here we've got a Frostmora carving knife, just a small whittling knife and a birch bark sheath there. And like I say, any whittling projects we got on the go at the time would just be shoved in there, little spoons, and so if I ever need a spoon for a stew or anything, I usually come in here, there'll be a spoon there. Also that's a crook knife there, just for getting in and bowling out. Pencil for drawing and marking on your work where you want to cut and planning your little whittling projects. And a piece of leather just to every now and then I just sort of, you know, protect a bit that might be rubbing or something like that, just for a bit of support. And sandpaper there, so that'll get tucked away in there and rolled up. Okay, so let's look at the sleeping kit, what I consider to be my sleeping kit, which first of all, I suppose we should start with the tarp. I always keep that readily available near the top of my rucksack in case, you know, you get caught short in a bit of torrential rain. You want to be able to grab your tarp quickly and put up a temporary shelter. So that is obviously in a dry sack there. It's in a dry sack, not to stop the tarp getting wet, but rather if I have to put my tarp away and it's soaking wet, it keeps all the moisture in, so it doesn't get any of my other kit inside my rucksack wet. So in there I have a Tatonka 3 metre by 3 metre polycotton tarp. So that's the tarp that I choose to use, and again you can see that in another video that I've done which shows you how to put up a tarp if you want to see more detail about that one. So that's my tarp, and then I would use the DD travel hammock. That's a good preferred choice of hammock there. And then this is my snug pack cocoon, which is custom made. I love this item to bits. It's a sort of bit of a bespoke item. You can't really get hold of them nowadays. Probably your best bet is to have a good stab at making one. What it is if you know what an underblanket is underneath a hammock, it creates that cavity of air underneath you. With the cocoon it just goes right round and it encapsulates the whole of the outside of the hammock to keep that warmth in. So I don't need a sleeping bag and an underblanket because this is both for me. Quite often in the winter even I will just use this, no sleeping bag, so it goes around the outside of the hammock and makes a big comfy cocoon there. And I really like that item because it makes it dead easy to get in and out of the hammock. It's just one zip at the top, you know, and typically I leave some of my clothes on if they're relatively clean, just boots off, get in, zip up, job done. So what have we covered? We've covered the tarp and the cocoon and the hammock. So other sleeping bits, I would say these trusty earplugs. Don't go anywhere without them in terms of camping. They ensure a good night's sleep for me. I'm a fairly light sleeper, so the smallest of sounds tends to keep me up. What we'll do, some of these items we will look at in more detail sort of closer up in a second. Okay, now we'll take a quick look at my cooking and eating kit. Firstly, I carry a Tibetan titanium billy can. So if I take that out, you can see it's got a fold out handle there, and it's quite a large pot. I think it's about 1 litre capacity, and inside it I have a few bits and bobs. This is basically my white box stove, and a bottle of meths. Now you can see I've got 3 bottles of meths here. What I do in my rucksack, they're quite small ones, I carry a small bottle at the bottom of each side pocket of my rucksack, so no matter which one I delve into in a rush, there's one at the bottom, and then I have one inside my billy can. These bottles are energy shot bottles. I don't like energy shots myself, I think they're ghastly, but I'm always nicking people's bottles for meths. I think they're really good, rugged, strong plastic bottles. So typically when I'm out, I rely on an open fire for most of my cooking. But if I need a quick brew on the trail or to heat something up, I've got the white box stove, which that's a rugged little stove which runs on meths, and in there wrapped up is just a windshield to go around the stove. We've done a video on that. It's a very powerful and lightweight stove really, so that all packs down into my billy can and is kept in my rucksack. So this is just really a sheath for my cutlery. So I've got a knife and a fork there, and I typically have a spoon kicking about in my carving kit, so if I need a spoon I've got that there. So the only other thing I do occasionally carry is a folding grill. I don't carry it every time, so I haven't really included it here, but I do sometimes carry a folding grill, and then I would keep it in a sort of thick plastic bag like that, stuffed down in the back of my rucksack so it doesn't get the rest of your gear caked in oils and stuff like that. So that's my cooking and eating kit. The next thing on my kit list is drinking and brew kit basically. Now in my time I've gone through carrying lots of different water bottles, army bottles, metal, plastic, platypus bottles, all the camelback systems, and in the end, I've ended up with just these recycled plastic bottles. I think these are Lucasade ones that I've chosen, 500ml. They've got a relatively wider spout on, which is easier from filling like a water source from a stream or something like that. I have two coloured tops, so basically that is my one to tell me that that could be not clean, and this is okay and safe to drink. So what I mean by that is typically when I leave home, obviously I filled them and I know they're both safe to drink, but later on in the trip the next day, you know, I might have filled that with water that isn't yet purified, so I'll fill that up and I know I've got to boil that before drinking it. So that's a litre of water there. A lot of the time, if I'm just going out for 2 days, I will carry just that with the intention of filling that one up again. But sometimes I carry a third bottle, and again I like these because I can typically keep one in either side pocket of my rucksack, and you know, if I need a drink I can go in either one. I don't have to think about it and one's there. They're fairly rugged bottles, you know, they put up with punishment. I haven't had one split on me yet, so I do like them. And they've got a little lip round the neck, so if you needed to, you can put cord underneath that and you can hang a bottle for any reason that you might want to. So this is my brew kit, just in its level pouch there. I've got a cuxer that my dear wife bought for me one Christmas many years ago. And inside there I typically have a small teaspoon just for stirring and flicking out your tea bag, and then I've tend to carry more these days these 3-in-1 coffee sachets. So they've got milk powder, coffee and 1 sugar in each sachet. In a small cup like that I only use half a sachet at a time, use an elastic band to seal it off and shove the sachets back in the pouch there. But if I did want a larger cup to drink out of, obviously I've got my billy can which I could use there with its handle. It's just basically another large cup. So that's my brew kit. Carry a few coffee sachets and my cup there. So that's drinking and brew. Okay, so now we'll move on to navigation. I carry a OS map of my sort of surrounding area. So at the moment, you know, typically I'll leave this one in the back of my rucksack and just sort of forget it's there. It always stays in my pack. That's the OS map for my area. Now if I'm going to Dartmoor, obviously for a trip, I'll carry the Dartmoor OS map. On the strap of my rucksack I always carried a compass clipped on, a good silver compass I think it was, a trusty one that was 10-12 years old, but unfortunately recently it got crushed and smashed, so I need to get a new compass. But temporarily I've got this carabiner sort of compass that just gives me a rough guide. It's there so when I look down on my strap to my right, I've got a compass right there that I can look at without having to get anything out. But that will be replaced with a proper compass. I've also got a digital compass on my Casio watch there, just for a quick reference. So that's navigation, and the other odds and sods that I tend to have in the lid of my bag, if we have a look at those now, they would be all sorts. We've got a little fishing line there made by Fish. That's a sort of hobo hand line. It's got hooks and bits and bobs stuck to a magnet on the inside, and your line wrapped around with your hook just latched into a hole on the side there, but you can cast out with that pretty easily. I also carry a candle. Sometimes I'll have the, I think it's called a bush light candle lantern, or other times I'll just carry a candle. I had that in my lid of my bag today. I've typically got an unfinished whittling project on the go that I'll just take with me to pass time. And some spare AAA batteries for my head torch. So of course I have my head torch readily available in the lid of my bag. That's just stuffed into that little sack there, but that's I think it's a Petzl Tikka XP headlight. Absolutely love that one, different modes, and it's got a diffuser lens on the front, and a max button for a powerful beam if you need it. Obviously, if you're using sharps out and about in the woods, miles from anywhere, you want a good first aid kit. So this is kept in the lid of my bag. I know quite often they say you shouldn't keep medicines in first aid kits, but I do. Relevant sort of medicines, ibuprofen and painkillers and all sorts there is in there, bandages and antiseptic wipes. So that's a first aid kit kept in the lid, the underside of my rucksack. Okay, so now we're moving on to my hygiene kit, which I keep in a little orange dry sack. So you can see it doesn't take up much space. And then what we have in here, let's have a look. Right, so the bits and bobs we have in here, we have got a flannel, obviously can be used for a variety of washing needs, and some soap in this net bag here. I've got some pine tar soap, and it's just good to have it in that net bag with that sort of loop on the end. After you're done washing your hands in the river, you can hang that on a branch and it just air dries really easily in that bag. I've got a little fold out toothbrush which is being stubborn and not opening, but yeah, that's a fold out toothbrush there, and some toothpaste. I've also got a little nail brush there just for getting your hands thoroughly clean, and some earbuds there. Handy to have a couple of little money bags there just to keep things separate if they're wet. And that's pretty much it. Flannel, nail brush, toothbrush, toothpaste, soap, earbuds, and that all gets shoved down into there. Again, in a dry sack, just to keep it all separate so I don't get the rest of my kit wet there. Also under hygiene, obviously I carry toilet roll. That's usually kept in the lid of my rucksack on the underside, just so it's dead readily available there if I need it. I've just taken, normally I'll take like a half a toilet roll tube, a toilet roll if it's there at home, take out the tube in the middle and just squash it down flat and stick it in a plastic bag there to keep it dry. These are a few other items that I would have stashed away in the main body of my bag. These are just lightweight outer shells. There's a waterproof jacket and waterproof trousers. These squash down really small in the pack when they're compressed. And then this is typically a food bag. I'm not out for an overnight stop today, so that one's empty. But typically I put my food that I'm going to be eating over the camp into a dry sack. Again, it's good to keep those smells or anything wet away from your kit inside. That's why it's in a dry sack, and also you don't want smells of food left about overnight for critters like foxes and badgers to be rooting through, so it's always good to have it in a dry sack, and then you can hang it up on a branch out of the way so Mr. Fox isn't trying to ransack your rucksack for that food like it did Phil's. Okay, that's most of the kit covered. It looks quite a lot all spread out here like this, but it does fit down quite nicely into that 45 litre rucksack. So a few other items that I sometimes carry but haven't got here today. Occasionally I'll carry one leather glove in the lid of my bag, just because it's handy when you're working around the open fire a lot, cooking and things. It's handy to have a leather glove to pick hot things off there. So sometimes I carry that. The other thing is a chair. Sometimes if the campsite isn't too far away from where we're parking our cars, I'll take a large camp chair which is nice and comfortable. If we're trekking a bit further or I need to travel lighter, a small folding chair or no chair at all. Sometimes I just have this shoved on the inside of the rucksack, a large plastic sack, just something to, something waterproof to sit on. So there are a couple of other items that occasionally I carry, depends where I'm going. So a lot of the items here, if you want to see them in more detail, we have covered in other videos, like the hammock and the tarp, the stoves, the knives, and also if you want to know more about how I change my kit depending on where I'm going or for how long, you can log on to naturalbushcraft.co.uk, and I have kit lists on there which have changed over the years, so you can see it sort of developing and different months, autumn, winter, summer, how the kit varies. Also, don't forget to share with us the kit that you carry. Come along to the Natural Bushcraft forum. There's a wealth of people there willing to share knowledge and skills, and we'd love to see what kit that you carry and variations and modifications you've made to that kit. So I hope you've enjoyed just a quick peruse through the kit that I carry for a camping trip of 2 or 3 days.